Welcome back, everyone, to the Authentic as Fuck podcast. My name is Sun. I'm a marketer and storyteller. And in this podcast, I help members of my community, Night Owl Nation, with any kind of storytelling, branding, marketing, or entrepreneur advice. So today we have Natalia. Welcome, Natalia.
Hi, San. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be
Hey,
here.
so can you give us a quick intro, like about where you're from, what you do, like your background?
Sure. I'm a teacher. I have over 17 years of teaching experience. I teach people how to learn. Learning how to learn is what I'm really passionate about. And in practical terms, I teach people native-like fluency. I don't like to say that I teach people English, but I teach at a master's level. How do I will never become a native speaker. I was born in Kazakhstan, born and raised in Kazakhstan. I will never become a native speaker, but achieving native-like fluency is a very feasible task because I have partners and clients and friends all over the world, and I want to be understood, and I value these relationships a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. I should probably be asking you a lot of questions. I'm trying to learn how to I want to learn how to teach by like kind of getting people excited about learning, I guess, right?
I
Or something like that.
fundamentally believe that every great teacher must be a good learner. If you're not a good learner, you can't pass this knowledge because you need to have it in order to give it to others.
Exactly. Yeah. So
So I'm
it'll be an
constantly learning
interesting
new skills.
it'll be an interesting conversation. So where do you want to start? Do you have a specific thing you want to ask me or talk about?
When I applied to be on your podcast, I asked a specific question. And I think this question is still on my mind. The question is how to use your tool, because I'm here in this community because I also want to learn storytelling, how to use storytelling to explain innovative ideas to the masses, let's say. Let me explain. So I teach at a master's level, as I said. I teach people how to learn, but most people have different immediate needs. So learning how to learn is a very abstract concept to them. But my goal is to make people understand that we're learning the wrong way. So we need to change how people learn. Otherwise, even the next two generations are going to be totally messed up. So we are learning the wrong way. And these ideas seem so abstract to people and so not important, while in reality, it is very important. For example, people don't really know how to learn. They expect to be taught. They expect somebody to sit in front of them and teach them. Okay, teach me. I'm paying you the money. Please teach me. And they think that they just absorbing information or consuming information counts as learning. It's not learning. Or what a lot of ed tech companies do, well, they know that people find that learning is difficult, it's hard. And people don't really like the idea of applying a lot of effort. So what they do is gamification is what they do. So instead of making it difficult, let's make it fun. But you're never going to master a skill if it's fun all the time.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But
I guess
love this idea, oh, it's fun, it's not difficult, but but it's never going to be fun. I mean, you're never going to master a skill if you don't practice it. If all you do is just have fun.
maybe like when they hear gamification, they hear like, oh, we need to make it easier and fun. But that's not like, because when I hear gamification, that's not how I think of it, because like the most fun games are actually really difficult. If it's easy, it's not fun, right? So for me, how I've always learned things, I 100% agree with you, by the way, first. I don't think people can be taught. They can learn, but I don't think they can be taught. Like, for example, let's say I want somebody to learn how to code, like learn object-oriented programming, right? For I can sit there and teach, hey, here's object-oriented programming. You need to create these objects, turn them into classes, and then each class does this, and this is what. Nothing is going to go in their ear. Like, they're just going to be like, what's the point of learning this? It's kind of like when you go to a math class and you learn trigonometry, and it's like, what is the point of learning this? Why do I need to learn Pythagorean theorem? Like, that's kind of how we think, and we just memorize, right? But for me, how I've learned and how I always taught other, like for example, my team, is I just give them a task, right? And your task is to make this login functionality work. And now they need to go and figure out, okay, how can I make this login functionality work? How can I do this? And now in order to do that, they need to learn object-oriented programming. They need to learn these things that's going to achieve that goal. But I always found that unless there's like a goal you're trying to achieve, like you're not going to actually learn. So one of the things that I do, like in my, like, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the things I do in my storytelling class, and I did this in my Domenica class, is I just have them write a story first, right? And then they write a story, and then they're like, but I don't really have an idea here. I don't know how this connects to, like, they bump into all these problems now, right? And then I go back and I say, okay, like, where's the 5-second moment? Where's the before and after? Where's the, like, I start pointing out all the things that you were stuck on. Then they'll actually listen and they'll want to try to learn that thing. But until there's like a goal they're trying to achieve, I feel like nobody will actually learn. Like nobody will learn a skill for the sake of just learning that skill. They'll only learn that skill if they can apply that skill towards a goal that they want to achieve. Something like that.
The goal is change. So if you want to learn something, you probably want to apply it in your life. That's why you're learning it.
Yeah. So here's the example, right? For example, at Night Owl Nation, what I'm actually trying to teach people is critical thinking. But if I went out and I say, hey guys, I'm here to teach you critical thinking, then nobody's actually going to be like, people are going to be like, I don't need that. Right? But what I say is, I'm going to teach you storytelling, right? That like this is going to, and then, but in order to do storytelling, you need to learn these things, right? But I'm finding now that even that's not working. So I need to go back even further and I say, I'm going to teach you how to grow your Instagram. Because that's something they actually want. Because a lot of people are like, I think I'm pretty good at storytelling. Like a lot of people don't realize what they're missing, right? So, but then if I say,
they're not aware of their reality. Yes.
Yeah. So what I might have to do is I might have to say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to grow Instagram. But in order to grow Instagram, you need to post every day. And if you post every day, what you're going to realize is it's not getting any views. But when you know how to like write that content or do storytelling and write it in a certain way, that's going to get more views. But in order to do that, you need to come up with, you need ideas to share in order to do that. So how do you come up with those ideas is you need to critically think. And so I need to somehow work backwards. And
if you want to teach people critical thinking, so basically what you're doing is you're trying to teach people to use the skills that they don't have yet. And that's difficult. So let me explain. When it comes to learning, well, critical thinking is a meta skill. Most people, when it comes to learning, they want to learn a hard skill. And everything that's sold around the world and all the edtech startups, they sell the idea of learning a hard skill. It's easy to measure. You can get there in 5 months. We're going to give you a certificate. You're all set. It's a hard skill. But the problem with hard skills is that they're forgotten so easily. If you do an English test, let's say, it's also a hard skill. You can put it on your resume, but you have to do this test every 2 years to prove that you still have it. Then we have soft skills, communication skills. They're not as easy to measure. They're more difficult to measure, but still they're measurable, and they're easily forgotten if they're not practiced frequently. And what I teach is meta skills, higher order skills. Critical thinking is one of them. Attentiveness.
That's
focus.
a soft skill?
No, these are meta skills. Critical thinking is not a soft skill.
What's the difference? Yeah.
Public speaking is a soft skill. Presentation skills, this is a soft skill. I don't know. Even leadership, they call it a soft skill, but it's probably not. Everything around communication is a soft skill. But how you think, how you process information, how you analyze, how you pay attention, what you pay attention to, how you memorize, how you manage your attention, all these things are meta skills. And the beauty about meta skills is that they are permanent. Once you've learned them, they're yours forever. So when you try people to use a meta skill, critical thinking, so that they learn storytelling, they're going to be confused because they don't have it. So they probably have it developed at 5%, some have it developed at 15%. Your job is to help them develop it to 100%. The problem with meta skills is that, as you said very correctly, if somebody says, join a workshop. I'm going to teach you meta skills. Run away. It's not possible to teach these skills in an abstract workshop. It's not that you can't have a theory class on meta skills. They can be mastered only if they're like if you're teaching people or if people are learning a practical skill. What I do is I help people master those skills by teaching them communication skills in a foreign language. You need to give them
Got it.
something practical. For example, in your case, it's storytelling, but you need to know what they're doing, what you're doing, what they're doing, and how these skills function. And that's actually my problem. And it's difficult to explain to people that it matters. They want to grow their Instagram, they want to tell good stories, but they are not aware of the fact that it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes iterations. Like what you do every week in the community in Night Owl Nation is beautiful, but still so many people complain about, oh, we're doing it again, again. But actually that's necessary. Every time you tell the same story again, you look at it differently because it's a scientific fact. A person looking at a new information can only see 15% of that information. The next time they look at it, they see 15% more. And people expect that they can read a book and think they know how to live. They attended a class or a workshop. Oh, I know everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's difficult for me. Like to.
So what do you think is how do you think people learn meta skills? Like, okay, first of all, are people learning meta skills in everyday life?
Absolutely. They're learning them in everyday life. Every time you want to figure out how to get to work, I'm going to use this route or I'm going to take a bus or a train, you're analyzing, you're planning, you're already applying your meta skills. Every time you travel and you're alone in a new country, you have to figure things out. So yes, you're developing your meta skills.
So can you give me an example? Like if I'm going to work and I'm trying to analyze, what's the meta skill there?
You go to work every day, you take a bus, right? To go to work. And then tomorrow there's a strike or construction works and then the bus is not going anywhere. So you need to figure out how to get to work. Mm-hmm. And you have to that's
so let's break that down. So what is
planning is
what's going on? Okay.
So you have to plan. So when people learn metacognitive strategies, well, there are 3 of them. You have to plan how you're going to approach the exercise. And most people have no idea. I'm just going to jump in and then I'm going to get all frustrated and disappointed. Oh, I can't do it. I'm lazy. But they never plan. How are you going to do this exercise? Which includes where are you going to sit? In which room? How much time do you need to factor in? Do you need a glass of water? Like you have to prepare your environment. You have to plan accordingly. And most people have no idea how they function, what they need to learn, how much time they need, but they assume that they can do it quickly or as quickly as
maybe it's like being able to see like the different case scenarios and saying like, oh, if I take this route, this is going to happen. If I leave a little bit early, then this, but if I leave too early, then I'm going to be waiting when I get there. Like having that cognitive
so you
because here's a good example, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing I talk about is, okay, so I always say storytelling is critical thinking. Like what I'm really underneath teaching critical thinking. So I might put out a story like this. All the way on the surface level, what people are saying is, hey, here's a good quote. Don't try to be interesting, try to be interested, right? Or another way people will say it is like be present in the meeting, or don't, rather than trying to like impress people, don't try to be impressive, or just be present and listen. Or some people might say it as like in sales meetings, don't try to don't talk, but listen. Listen is more important than talking. Or like all these different things people say on the top, but underneath that layer, I don't think most people really understand what that means and why they should be doing it, right? So
especially if they've never been in a sales meeting, they will never be able to understand that.
Yeah, but even if they've been in a sales meeting, because I know a lot of people, like me, myself.
Yeah.
So here's like a critical thinking part. I used to go to sales meetings all the time, and I would do some research on the company before, and I would go in and I'd say, okay, I'm gonna mention that. Oh, this company got acquired by this other company 2 years ago, so I'm gonna mention that to impress them, to show them I've been doing research, and I'm gonna show them all these awards that I won, and I'm trying to constantly impress them with the amount of knowledge that I have, right? Thinking that that's what I need in order to sell. Now, when I was hiring a copywriter from one of my clients, when we started interviewing people, what happened was these copywriters were coming to us, and they were doing the same thing to me. The copywriters like, oh, you have to write the copy this way because this is the X blah blah blah, and they were trying to impress me with all of. But in the midst of them trying to impress me, I was in my head, I was thinking like, oh, but that's not going to work for my audience because
Yes.
for Baptist yoga, these audience actually hates that language. They hate the way that those marketers, the copywriters, the copywriter language and all of that. And I was trying to explain that, like, okay, like our audience is like this, blah 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 blah. But it was like they weren't listening because they were so focused on
Yeah.
impressing me by talking about themselves that they made me feel like I'm not important. They made me feel like they're not really listening to me. And that's when I realized that, oh my gosh, I was actually doing the same thing as what that guy was doing when I go into the sales meeting, right? And okay, so now when I explain that, for some reason, when I explain it like that, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. That's so true. Like, because everyone's been in that conversation where everyone was just focused on talking and not listening, right? But then they don't understand that they're also doing that in a sales
Yes.
meeting. So, but then I can't teach. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want to tell stories, if you want to be good at storytelling, I just told you a story.
Yes.
And the point of that story is to make you see something that you didn't see before. But in order to be able to even tell that story, you have to experience it first and understand that that's what's happening, which is what most people don't understand. So unless you've already been here, you can't tell a story about it, and therefore you can't grow Instagram. Do
That's
you
why,
understand?
yeah, that's why meta skills can be only taught if you practice something, not if you talk about something, not if you learn something from a book or from a webinar, but if you really do something, practice it. Attending workshops is not practice. Like really posting things, writing things, contacting people, go into those sales meetings with a coach or with a
Can I
mentor. Yeah.
can I say something? I think somebody could be in that exact same scenario that I was in and still not connect those dots. Like
Yes.
somebody could have been in a interview. Somebody could have been in a situation where they're selling themselves, and then in a situation where they're being sold to, and still not connect those dots to be like, oh, wait a minute, am I doing the same thing that this salesperson is doing to me when I'm selling?
You can't influence that. Everybody is at a different level. As I said, somebody has these skills at 5%, somebody has them at 35%. You can't influence that. So everybody needs a different amount of time to get there, to connect the dots. I have been in these situations many times, the ones that you're
So
describing. And
you
my
think repetition, like if you've been
no,
in that
I've been in
situation
sales
many
meetings like
times,
this. When I started my career, I also tried to impress people a lot. But what I learned and what I'm teaching right now is I had to teach myself to be prepared to be not prepared, like to be prepared for any meeting when I'm not prepared. So I stopped preparing and memorizing the things that I should say, because the most important skill is to feel the situation, to connect with the person. Because it happened to me so many times when I was all prepared, I would come in and a person would tell me, you know what, I have another meeting in 15 minutes. Can we make it like, just quickly? Let's just, what do you have? And then all my presentation, I couldn't deliver it because I only had 10 minutes. And I had to learn to be spontaneous. And I learned that I have to prepare myself, not my presentation, not my words. I have to prepare myself so I can manage myself in every situation. And so I can quickly connect with a person and feel what is the right thing to say in this specific situation. And you need a lot of practice to be able to come up with this, and a lot of mistakes. You need to do a
or
lot of
what
mistakes.
about like being able to see that? That's, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, why is it that some people might be in this situation and see that, oh, wait a minute. Like the fact that this person is selling to me right now, I'm sensing that they're not really paying attention to me. And then be able to connect that back and be like, wait a minute. When I was selling to somebody else, I was doing the same thing that this person is doing to me right now, right? So first of all, how can we get somebody to recognize that? Number one.
Give them a lot of practice and show them,
So they have to be in a lot of sales meetings.
you have to go to
Yeah.
these meetings with them. If they find it difficult to see, you just need to go to these meetings with them. I do all the exercises with my students. I show them exactly how I do it. So because they tell me this all the time. If you didn't show me, I would have never paid attention to this. It's just I never pay attention to these things. So I do everything with them and I show them what is worth.
But what I'm
paying attention.
saying is, okay, this is just one thing, right? This is
Yeah.
just one thing. I guess on a high, like now let's take a step back. What I'm saying is this critical thinking like this is what made me come up with this story, which
Yeah.
is what made me able to put that out in the content in a way that makes sense to other people, right?
Yes.
Now you can do this. That's just one of 1,000 different content that I can put out. Okay. So I can't obviously just sit there and teach people every single, I guess what I'm trying to say is, how can I teach people to do that themselves all the time across all of their activities that's happening in their life? Because here's what I'm trying to say. I think that everyone's already lived a life where they just go back and they just critically think about all the things that all the situations they've been in, and reflect back on all these things. They have the capability to connect the dots and turn it into a story in a way that other people can also see it. But what's happening is they're not going back and actually doing that.
Do
So
you recognize that I came to this podcast with the same question? I have the same question that you're asking me right now.
yeah,
How do you get people to see that? How do you get people to recognize that? Well, first
yeah,
of
I
all,
guess
everybody has
maybe we need to figure it. That's the exact thing that I'm trying to figure out with Night Owl Nation.
everybody has a different capacity to learn. I don't believe you can teach people. Like you can identify the most capable learners and help them learn. You can't force somebody to learn it, so you can't teach them if they don't want to learn. But you can definitely identify the most capable learners and help them practice. A lot of people don't understand how to do it. So they want it, but they don't know how to do it. So you're showing this to them. They see a beautiful perspective. Oh, I can do this too. I can grow my Instagram. But they don't understand how to do it. You tell them, write a story, find your 5-second moment. But they still don't hear the message that you need to do it 200 times.
Yeah.
Not once.
One thing that I am learning right now though is it takes just one time where they did the exercise and it's something clicked. They're like, oh, I get it now. Like
Yes,
something clicked. Yeah. Then from that point on, they're like, I see what the point of this exercise
it's still
is now.
not enough.
Yeah. And at least they'll keep doing the exercise because they know that the exercise is helping them.
If they do the exercise, that's good.
Yeah. But most people don't even have that moment of click. So they're going like, okay, what's the point of doing this exercise? Do you understand what I mean?
There are different scenarios here. You see, when something clicks, so I also work with insights. I have a methodology, and insights is a very important part of the learning process. You need to have this insight. Oh, now I get it, this aha moment. But what happens is that, let's say, one type of people, one category of people, they get this insight and they identify it with success. Oh, now I get it. But they have no idea how to replicate this success and they quit. Oh, and they tell everyone the story that I had this insight. It was great. I had such a great experience, but they don't know how to replicate the success. It was intuitive rather, or it just clicked. And then the other category of people, they understand the potential, so they will practice again so that they're able to replicate the success. So you have learned a skill when you can do it 100 times out of 100 attempts. Then you really learned a skill because you can do it. And the other people, the other category, it just never clicks with them. They can't see it. And they don't understand what you're even talking about.
Yeah. That's why I guess like I guess you know what, to answer your question,
Mm.
I'm still in the process of learning that. So I don't know if I could answer your question.
So
Um,
we're building a startup where the learning should be built around practice. And
mhm,
instead of giving people a curriculum, because the problem with most edtech startups is content. As soon as they run out of content, it becomes boring and people are not interested anymore. But instead of consuming content, people need to be doing exercises and receiving feedback. So the thing about learning is you learn from people and you must learn with feedback. So you're doing it great in the community. But practice is hard, feedback is painful. So
mhm,
it's really hard to sell these ideas.
mhm.
You know that.
I think maybe the answer is like giving quick wins, right? So somehow I need to whittle down the exercise to a point where they do this little tiny little exercise,
Mhm.
and they'll in a very small way something clicks where they go, oh yeah, that that they get some sort of a sense of accomplishment from that exercise. And once they got that sense of exercise, then they're gonna be more likely to that second exercise. Right now, what I noticed, the mistake that I've been making is that first exercise is a little bit a little tough.
Mhm.
It doesn't, after doing that exercise, you don't really have like the sense of accomplishment, like, oh, I figured it out or something like that. So that they don't want to do the second exercise. Do you understand what I mean?
But I don't think it's totally true, because for some people it's difficult, and those people who find it difficult, they will say it to you. For others it's not that difficult, but they will not say it because they
I
did
think
it.
most people are on the second. Like, I think most people are on that second, the latter. I think smaller percentage of people actually get it and it clicks and they're like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah,
but
that's
the voices that you hear usually are those people who don't get it, like, and they complain and they can't figure it out. And those people who did it and they understood the value of the exercise, they're going to do it again,
hmm.
and they're
So
going to
how
do
do
it
you
again.
feel? Like, does the exercise feel like it's something is clicking?
When I do your exercises,
Yeah, at Night Owl Nation.
I'm just so used to this work, because you're
Hmm.
asking us to do a lot of self-reflection, and this is what I've been doing for years, and that's also a meta skill, by the way. And I think I'm able to connect the dots, but what I'm learning here is to find the right words that are simple enough for larger audiences.
For me, the way I do it is like this. So I give you that one example of like, if I want
Mhm.
to teach somebody how to be more present in meetings and stop selling yourself. Like, let's say,
Mhm.
I can say it like that. I'm like, okay, Nick, I'm trying to teach sales skills. Okay, all you freelancers out there, stop trying to sell yourself in a meeting. If I say that, it's just going to go in one year out the other year, right? But if I give them these two scenarios where, oh, I used to do this, but then when I was being sold, this is how I felt, and I felt like they weren't really paying attention to me. And then if I give them another example where it says, hey, have you ever been in a conversation where this person was so focused? Have you ever gone on a first date where this person was so focused on impressing you that they weren't really listening to you? That's what you might be doing.
Do you call it teaching?
No, I guess in my mind, that's my flavor of storytelling. Because I
Yeah.
feel like for me to really get this lesson across to you of like, stop selling yourself, the only way I can really get that message through to you is
Is
by
there a,
giving you an example of something that you're already doing, that you've already felt before.
so you
Here's
make it
another
easy.
example.
You make it easy for people to see a different perspective, which is valuable, and they
But
finally
using an example they've already experienced. That's like the most important
not
part. Like here,
necessarily. Yeah, okay. Uh-huh.
because if not, if they haven't experienced it
Yeah.
themselves, they're not really gonna, like, here's a good example. So people always say if you're as a leader, You shouldn't. I talked about this in this past Sunday service. As a leader, you have to really have humility and drop your ego, right? And people say that all the time. You see that on social media all everywhere. Like, humility is confidence, blah, 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 all of that, right? I think that most people don't really know what that really means. Like,
Sure.
in their heart, they don't like they understand the words, but they don't really know what that means, right? So what I'm trying to do is use story to make them feel it, right? And one of the ways I can do is give them an example that they understand. So let's say you have a 7-year-old nephew who you want them to feel like they're owning something, that they're excited to do something, right? And you're playing a game with them where that 7-year-old is going like, "Hey, I'm going to be the captain, and you're going to be my first mate," right? And I go to him and be like, "Okay, yes sir, captain." And I'm trying to make them feel like make him feel like the boss and make him excited about something, right? That's a familiar feeling that everybody knows, right? Like, at that moment, my ego is not going like, "What? Why are you the captain? I'm the captain." You're not going to argue with the 7-year-old, right? Like, that's a familiar feeling. That's an example of a familiar feeling, right? And then now I can tie that to, so why can't you do that with your employee? Why can't you do that with your team? Like, you're sitting there arguing with your team, like arguing with your employee, and that's equivalent to you arguing with a 7-year-old instead of making that person feel like excited about it and take ownership of their job, right? But what I'm trying to do here, I mean, I don't. This is not like a piece of content yet. I'm still working on this. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tie, like, so my flavor of storytelling is I'm trying to teach this lesson of you should drop your ego and give that person the ownership and make your employee feel like the boss and make your employee so that they'll be excited to do that thing that you want them to do, right? But to do that, you kind of have to treat them like a 7-year-old that you wouldn't argue with, the same way you would make that 7-year-old feel excited about being a captain, right? But you've been in this situation before, so you know what that feels like. But you don't know how to apply it here. So that's why I'm using this as an example to teach this lesson. Do you know what I mean?
I see what you mean. It might be a good idea to explain it like you would explain it to a 7-year-old if you teach a beginner. But if you don't work with beginners, this strategy would not work. They want to be treated as equals. This
Say
is
that
still
again.
you need to treat them as equals, not as a 7-year-old, but as equals. So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that what you are doing
No,
here.
yeah, obviously you wouldn't talk to them like as you would talk to a 7-year-old.
Well, yeah, but still, what you
but what I'm saying is you're employing the same methodology of dropping your ego and making the 7-year-old feel excited to, because, like, if you talk to a 16-year-old, you're going to talk slightly different than you talk to a 7-year-old, and you talk to a 30-year-old, you're going to talk differently. But that same underlying thing can happen where your goal is to make them feel excited about it and make them feel like they have the ownership.
Yes, you make them feel
And
important.
they're in control.
Yeah, you make them feel important and valued and
Yeah,
needed. Every human being needs that. Yes.
exactly.
But what I'm trying to say is that this is still not learning. And I guess that's the question that I have in mind. People think that watching a YouTube video is learning or reading a story on Instagram is learning. It's not. You're giving them a different perspective. Something can go like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, no, that's not learning. It's
That's
storytelling
not
in my.
learning. Yes, you're sharing a different perspective. You're helping them see a different perspective.
Yeah,
But to help a person who recognizes this problem, damn it, I do the same thing in meetings.
But
He really,
what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to do is I want them to learn the meta skill, I guess, which is going to allow them to do this.
they have to practice it. That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say. If you want this
yeah.
person to learn to behave differently in meetings, you have to give them a task to go to a sales meeting every day and maybe go with them and then sit with them and give them feedback and discuss those meetings. So once they've done it 200
I
times,
see
they're
what you
going
mean.
to
Yeah.
get the skill. But
I
people,
guess, you know what?
yeah.
That's what I mean by. That's why I keep telling people, don't make content about something that you don't have experience in.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think that's what's happening. Like, if you're trying to teach a concept about sales meeting and you haven't had enough sales meeting experience to understand this, your content is just never going to be as good as mine. because
Yeah.
I've already went through the learning of the meta skills, which allows me to connect the dots and tell the story. But if you haven't gone through that meta skills yet, you're not going to be able to connect those dots, right?
But I think things are even more complicated. What would you say about joy? Do you think joy is the concept that most people would understand?
Oh, so like you're talking more about life advice now. Like if
No,
you're trying to teach.
for example, just to give you an example, you're saying if a person hasn't experienced that, they will not understand. I teach a very simple idea that if you need to learn something, you need to change your daily practice routine. You need a routine. But this routine is going to, it's not going to be a short term routine. It's going to continue for a while. So to make it possible for you to sustain it, it needs to bring you joy. And my initial idea was that everybody understands what joy means. And what happens is that when I do my group coaching program, students tell me again and again that you've been talking about this joy for like 5 months now, and I'm only now I'm getting it. But even now, I started recognizing the moments of no joy, but I still have no idea what brings me joy and how learning can bring joy. Like you would think that this is something
I
everyone
wouldn't
has.
call that joy
It's joy.
because because I don't know, maybe it's just wording, but for me, the thing that's gonna make me do it again is
Mhm.
less of joy and some sort of feeling of accomplishment.
But my own results bring me joy. They motivate me to keep going. So when I do something better, oh, it brings me joy. So that's joy for me. For different people, they can have different
Yeah, maybe
examples
it's
of
just
what
a
brings joy.
just word, right? Like, because
Yeah.
for example, like if I've seen my family that I haven't seen for a long time, that gives me joy. But if I see them every day, like it's not gonna like. Do you understand what I mean? Like that's so
Yeah.
maybe it's like a it's and I guess what I'm like the
Yeah. Joy means
what do they
novelty.
call? Yeah,
Right. Yeah. It
yeah,
means novelty. So every day you do a slightly different exercise or you see a slightly different result and you like it, so it brings you joy.
yeah. So that's why it has to be that in order to have that slight different exercise, it actually has to be a little bit hard
It
because like
has to be,
if
I read it somewhere, but that it has to be kind of in the middle between too challenging,
zone of
like impossible.
proximal, yeah, it's called like the zone of proximal learning or something like that, where if it's too easy, then it's
Yeah,
not
it's
fun.
not
if it's
motivating.
if it's impossible, then it's not fun. It has to be like right in that zone.
Yes,
I forgot what it's
exactly.
called. Yeah. My
But
sister talks about it all the time.
what people what people find it hard to accept and recognize is that they need to do it again and again. And I know from experience, the first 200 times you do it is going to be super bad. And that's how it works, you know? You have to do it at least 200
I guess
times.
the goal is that first 200 times you do it, how can you make it in a way, how when you that's I think that's what people mean by gamification. When you play a game, when you play Super Mario, right? the
Hmm.
the the way you design that game is that first round, all they're trying to do is show you that if you press this button, you're gonna jump. Now, if you hold down this button and press this button at the same time, you're gonna jump even higher. And if you go left, you're gonna go left. You're gonna go right. Like that's all they're trying to teach you, right? So usually the level one of the game design
Hmm.
is they're gonna have some obstacles where you're gonna have to jump a little bit, and then another obstacle where you have to jump more, right? So now you have to just learn those two things. And then once you go to the next level, now you have to understand that, okay, now I need to do jump twice and do like in every level, what the game is actually teaching you how to play the game. But
Yes.
you don't understand that, you like the person who's playing the game doesn't know that that's what's happening. All they're trying to do is just go after that star, or all they're trying to do is just eat that mushroom. But in order for you to eat that mushroom, there's a combination of buttons that you need to press in order to do that, and the game is actually teaching you that. So I almost feel like we need to design the learning experience that way, where that first lesson they're doing something, and it's not easy because they have to figure it out, but they actually have an incentive to do it because once they figure it out, they're
I
hitting
think
some
that's
goal.
my problem. Everybody's trying to spoon feed people and stripping them away of their power. People have to take their power back because people are capable of many things. But if you try to you will not. Basically, you need to control and spoon feed only those people who are not capable. People are capable. We need to recognize that they are capable. We need to help them get their power back and show them the power that they have, because they've given enough of their power to online experts. I don't know anything, so I'll listen to this person who says, oh, this, and then they also take no ownership of their learning process. Oh, San told me to do that. Or this person told me to do that. Not my fault.
But in that level 1 of the game, nobody told them to do that. They're actually figuring it out for themselves.
But they want to play a game. You know, when you talk about gamification, you imagine Super Mario. But I think there's been so much progress since then. Because when I think about gamification, I think about edtech applications, let's say Duolingo, where you open lesson 1 and you have immediately earned 1 million points. Congratulations, you opened lesson 1. You press play, you earned 2 more million points. You haven't done anything yet. And they already earned 3 million points just for.
But Duolingo works though. It works because, so maybe have
you seen their profits in 2022 and 2023?
No, I mean, I don't really know, but what I'm saying is
it doesn't work.
the gamification stuff does work because it gets people to actually do something rather than do nothing.
The question is for how long and to what level.
Well, it's better than they would much rather do Duolingo than be forced to sit in a class where like only a few people actually wants to sit in a class and learn, versus more people are willing to do this, right?
I guess I'm trying to say that it's not necessary to sit in a class, and it's also not necessary to get stuck at the beginner's level with Duolingo. You can't develop this level of fluency and mastery with an application like Duolingo. You can get only to a certain level.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm saying, I'm not saying that Duolingo has figured it out, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, you can sit there, I can sit here and be like, no, you need to learn critical thinking, and like I don't care if you don't understand. Like, I can do that. It's not working out, right?
No, it's not
like people. So somehow I have to meet them at their, meet them at their level, right? Yes. I can't just be like, the reason why you're not good at storytelling is because you're not doing critical thinking. Like, that's not gonna work. Do you understand what I mean?
It's not gonna work. You have to lead by example.
Yeah. So somehow I have to. And that's what I mean by, let's say I want them to critical think like at this level, but somehow my only goal is not to by showing where they can be, because I don't think that works either. Because I'm like, if you go to the gym and if you just eat broccoli and like boil chicken every day and go to the gym and exercise every day, you're gonna get six pack, and just think about that. Like, I don't think that works either, because most people don't have six pack. Yeah.
When I say give the power back to people, means let them make their own decisions. So when you're trying to spell everything out like this, it sounds cheap and salesy. But
But here's what I think, though. Mm-hmm. Again, I understand every human on Earth wants to get fit and wants to have a six pack. Now, that doesn't mean, but most of them will never do it, right? Even though they know that they have the power to do it.
But they don't even know what it takes. They don't even know what it takes.
I think everyone knows what it takes. Mm-hmm. They just... Okay, so you don't think that everyone knows that if you eat healthy and you work out every day, that's going to give them a six-pack? You don't think people know?
People can't imagine what it means to eat healthy and work out every day for like the rest of your life, or for at least 3 years. People.
That's what I mean. That's what... Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you have to do it a certain amount of time. And then once you get there, now the intrinsic motivation kicks in. And they are like, oh, I get it now. I get what hard work really means. I get what eating healthy really means. I get that it's really working. But until then, it's not. They're never going to get there.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's if you leave it up to them. So I feel like at some point in the beginning, there has to be some extrinsic motivation that's going to force them to get there first. But then what you need to do is you need to design the course or whatever like, for example, like Peloton or CrossFit or something. Like, I think that's why Peloton and what is that other class? SoulCycle kind of works, right? People love it because when you go there, they have the leaderboard. When you go roll faster, you see your name moving up, and when you slow down, you see your name moving down, and things like that, right? And that's extrinsic motivation. It's not that you're not giving them the power. What you're doing is you're using like a mouse, mouse, and like you're using like a, what do you call that? A bait to get them
Yes.
to do something that they don't want to do. But you, like, if you do that for 3 months, and then you look in yourself in the mirror and be like, holy shit, like like I, I've gotten more fit and blah blah blah. Then maybe the intrinsic motivation will kick in. But in the beginning, I don't think you can expect people to do that.
I have two things to say. For in the online
Mm-hmm.
world, I agree that the extrinsic motivation is necessary. In the online world, influencers do this work. For example, a lot of people who join now Night Owl Nation, you are their extrinsic motivation. They're there because of you. That's it. So an expert, a person, can be an extrinsic motivation. Oh, I want to be like Sun. I want to tell stories like Sun. I want
Yeah,
to learn
that's
from Sun.
yeah.
But
Okay, but
and
that's a very short extrinsic. That's not
yes,
gonna last very long.
but even and what is frustrating is even if you've done it for 3 months, you've written every day on social, you've posted every day on social media, you've eaten healthy for 3 months, you've done cycling and
You might
CrossFit for
still
three
not get
months.
there. Yeah.
You might even get somewhere, but the intrinsic motivation will not, it's still not normal for you. It's like you have been doing a different thing for 20 years before that. And now these 3 months is not enough to change what's normal. You need to change your norm so that a different thing becomes normal for you. You need at least a year of a practice routine. That's why I say the only way to help
I
people
agree.
start
Yeah.
changing something, extrinsic motivation should probably motivate them to change one small thing, but in their daily life, until something else becomes normal. So basically, when
It has to become habit. Yeah.
autopilot, we all run on
Yeah.
autopilot. We
Yeah.
say things on autopilot, we think on autopilot, we
Yeah.
do things on autopilot. You need to change your autopilot mode, at least in one small area, and
But
then
do
you're going to
you
understand.
but you also agree that, let's say it takes a year for them to get it on autopilot, right?
At least,
But you
yes.
also agree that you can't get them to through that year by just telling them like you have to
No.
like, you know what I mean?
They need
The
practice
extrinsic
and
motivation
feedback.
needs to be there for that
And
first
they need
year.
a lot of practice and a lot of feedback. If
Yeah.
they only do practice and never receive feedback, it's not going to work either. So practice and feedback for this year until they can do it by themselves. They need guidance. But practice and feedback, practice and
Yeah, I
I
see what you
call
mean.
it
Yeah.
caring human feedback. That's the only way. But until they have managed to change their autopilot, even in one small area of life, maybe they stopped eating sugar, maybe they started brushing their teeth differently, whatever, then they can recognize, oh, I actually have the power to do the same thing with my other skill. And that's what I mean by meta skills. When they see that they have the power, they actually were able to change that.
So
Why don't I try to
so what
change
you
that?
call meta skill is almost like connecting the dots is a meta skill.
That's also a meta skill. By the way, intuition can be called a meta skill too. So you have this gut feeling and you can quickly feel the room, or you can recognize when a person is lying. That's also meta skill. Yeah. And
I see
they're
what you mean. Yeah.
permanent. You have to, once you've got them, once
Well,
you've
I'll
practiced.
tell you where we are now at Night Owl Nation. So obviously we haven't cracked the code yet, but I do see that the few number of people who's been doing this practice, like it's been a year since we started, and the few number of people who's been doing the exercise for a year, like Rosalinda, for example, now they're seeing it. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
something is clicking.
Yeah.
And they're even like storytelling in their own job or on social media, and something is clicking for them. That now they get it. They're on their way. They're willing to keep doing the exercise. Blah
Yes.
blah
And
blah.
they're
Blah.
willing to help other members, which is
Yeah,
valuable.
but most people can last that year. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out right now is every step of the way. How can I? Okay, maybe they won't feel that what Rosalinda's feeling, but how can I give them like a little mini version of that from day one? Because for me, when I try something, like if I feel like this is pointless, I'm not even gonna try it. I'm not gonna go back, right? But then if I get something out of it, some sort of a little, like you said, joy. So I have to give them the joy on day one, and I have to give them the joy on day two and day three, and like for 365 days, and then from that point on, like they can, there. So somehow maybe that's the thing. We need to figure out what is that little bit of joy that we can give them on day one.
And I guess the challenge is that joy means different things for different people. Some people like to be competitive. Some people don't like competitions. For example, in my small group, nobody cares about the competition. And I hear that in other small groups, everybody wants to win. So, people
Yeah,
are motivated by different things.
I don't think that works. It's almost like the joy is almost like, so for me it's like this. When I hire a new developer, and that this developer has no experience in coding, right? Like they don't, and if I tell them like I want you to make a functionality where when somebody submits this form, it takes the data from that form and sends an email to this person, like a contact form, a simple contact form, right? Like you fill out this form, you submit, now it takes that information and sends an email to this email address, right? That's a simple functionality. Like if I asked you to do it, you would be like, what? There's no
Well,
way
I
I
will
can
do
do
it with
that.
Typeform or Zapier. I know that.
No, but let's say I told you to code
Yeah,
that
yeah. I wouldn't be able to code that.
using Python or something like that. Like you would be like, what? What are you talking about, right? So what happens is now when I give them tasks, the first thing I have to do is like, oh, it's easy. And then I give them very basic, like I point them to the place where they can get started. And now they're going to have to do something where, I submitted this form and then I saw that it come when I do submit, I saw that it shows up on here. Okay. That's step one of, let's say 20, but I got the step one down, right? And
Yeah.
that's going to get them excited to do the step. Okay, like now that I got here, now I need to figure out how I can send that into this email system. Okay, like let me look that up. And so, but what I found is when I give that task to people, and I don't need to teach them step by step what to do step by step. What I need to do is I just need to first guide them the right direction, and they have to do the work of figuring it out themselves until that next milestone. And once they get there and they get stuck, I just need to guide them again, and then the next milestone. So by me inputting only 5% of kind of just little tapping, guiding them the right direction, and them figuring out the rest of the way, at the end of that week, sometimes they might have to stay up all night to figure. Oh, I really like that's what drives them. Oh shit! I feel like I almost got it. I just need to, and then they figure it out, right? Then they're like, oh my gosh, I can do this, and then I can give like that is for me. I always give that task to every developer because what I found is that once they get past that, like they're on their way.
And they're probably proud of their work because they figured
Yeah,
it out
yeah,
all
yeah,
by
yeah. Because they did
themselves.
it themselves. Yeah.
They own
So
their work.
somehow I need to replicate that same exact feeling. But it's the same with designer. Like I have to get them to do something that they thought they couldn't do, but somehow they figured it out how to do it.
Can you
And
see
once
that
that
huge,
happens, yeah.
can you see that a huge part of it is human connection? So you're actually there guiding them, talking to them, probably in the
But
same
I need to
room.
figure out okay. So I already know that I can do it one on one.
Yes. And
Now
you
I
can
need
do it even in the chat with all the like where you talk to all the leaders. But I
I
admire the
can
fact
do it with
that
10 people too, I think. You're right.
I
What I'm trying to
respect
figure out is
that.
how do I scale this?
I have the same question. So because I'm watching you and I respect the fact how much attention you give to people because I fundamentally believe that practice and feedback are fundamental. All my products come with feedback. I spend the majority of my time giving feedback to people, to every single student, because they will never learn without it. And I don't want to sell them an online course, which is just a video library that they have to figure out on their own. It's not working. They need feedback. But my question is the same. When you talk to people, you know which buttons to push, you know how to tell them, you know what to tell them, you know how to motivate them, you know what works. But do you see, for example, maybe that's a question for you too,
Here's okay.
how to
Let me
scale that
know.
automation? Yeah.
Let me know if this helps.
Mm-hmm.
So if I sit here and I try to figure out how to scale it, I don't think I'll ever figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think but if I look at where we were a year ago
Mm-hmm.
and where we are now, I definitely need to know how to do it more than last year. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not like, maybe I haven't cracked the code yet, but I went from here to here. Do you know what I mean? But the way I did it, most of the process that I think I figure out that got us from step 0 to step 1 was through the practice of that feedback. Of the reason why I do the hot seats every Saturday, and I'm always doing hot seats, is because I'll give an exercise. I'm like, okay, guys, do this, right? Okay, here's a good example. So one of the things that I added is, okay, here's an exercise. I want you to find out your weakness and figure out how that can also be your strength. So the first time I did it, like, 2 quarters ago, everybody came back and everybody was like this. Oh, my weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. My weakness is that I'm a people pleaser. My weakness is that, like, everybody kept coming up with this. But what I figure out is that those are the common things that everybody thinks is their weakness. Like,
Yes.
every human on earth think that they're a people pleaser. Every human on earth think that they're lazy. Every human on, like, these are common things that everyone feels. But, like, are you? This is the average of how most people are people pleasing. Everyone's a people pleaser, but some people are like down here, some people are up here, and some people are here. But people that are like here think that that's their weakness when it's actually not. Is you feel the same amount of people pleasing as everyone else. Are you more than others? Is what I'm trying to look for, right? And I found that just through a lot of hot seats of working with people individually one on one. One of the things that worked is every time I say, "What do people around you say about you?" Like, what does your mom tell you? What is your sister like? What's the common thing everybody's like? Oh, you're such a people pleaser. You're like, you're always just trying to, like, you're such a stubborn. You're so stubborn. Why can't you just let it go? Like, what is the thing that people around you say about you? Because most likely that's your real weakness, right? I had no idea that even that's even going to be the trigger that's going to help people find it. But through a lot of hot seats, that's
Yes.
one of 10,000 things I figure out. Now I need to find out 9,999 other things like that. But the only way I'm going to be able to figure all of those out is by keep doing these hot seats and just
Yeah.
add one to the repertoire, one to the repertoire, one to the repertoire.
I guess my
Like,
question is,
here's another one.
yeah.
Whenever I tell people to, okay, tell me a story about where you used to be like this, now you're like this. When I do that, people always tell the same story of, like, oh, I used to be so not confident, and over time through yoga, I'm like, no. Give me the what, when, where, and with who. You have to be able to tell me what day was. Was it at night? Was it during the day? Give me a specific, and that's how we came up with the 5 second moment, that thing, right? But that's what I mean. Like, almost everything that I'm teaching right now is a result of the hot seats, and little by little and I'm not even remotely close yet. And that's why I keep showing up, and that's why I keep doing hot seats. And I think maybe it'll take me 10 years to figure it all out.
Yeah, people must learn from feedback. There's no, if you remove this
Yeah.
feedback part, it's not going to work. Absolutely not. And
But
I
I
don't
also
really,
learn from feedback.
yes, and you learn from
Yeah.
feedback. And I guess that's what I'm trying to, well, we're both trying to figure this out. How to
Yeah.
scale this, and how, for example, how to scale this methodology of learning how to learn, to show more people that they have this power and that they can learn things quickly and perform at a different level, but how to scale it,
So I think
but
what you
not
should do,
remove feedback, but not remove
maybe this
feedback.
is the thing. Here, now I have an answer for you.
Okay.
I think this is what I'm doing. I'm assuming that this is what they need to learn, and I teach it at scale to 200 people, right? And then what happens is 199 out of those people don't actually learn it. Right? So I taught it the wrong way, right? Or maybe not 199, but 190 of them, right? So now what I do is I go on hot seats with some of those people, and I figure out, why didn't you learn it, right? And then next time I do it, I modify what I teach and I do it now. And then maybe now this time, instead of 190, it was maybe 185, right?
Yeah,
And then
you
now I go on
iterate.
hot seat.
That's right. You
Yeah. So
iterate.
I think just the reiteration every round of just getting feedback. Okay, now I'm going to teach you like this. Okay, next time we do this exercise, I'm going to tweak the exercise a little bit like this. Next time I do, so that's why I'm saying maybe it'll take 10 years to do it. But I think that's what I'm doing pretty
Can I ask
much.
you a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Have you ever thought of scaling Nidal Nation with investment? Have you ever thought about raising money to scale
Yeah,
it?
yeah, no, and I am going to do that.
Okay,
But
so
I
then
just
we are on the same boat. How would you sell it to investors? Because, well,
I don't think I can sell it to investors yet because I don't think I have a product yet.
mm-hmm.
I think what I need to do is I need to get it to a point where this works for majority of the people.
But you
Do
need
you
to
understand what I mean?
sell the perspective to investors. You need to sell the perspective that it's going to be a profitable business and it's going to work. And I guess that's what's difficult to
No,
sell.
you need a proof of concept.
Yeah,
You can't
but also,
I can't just go to an investor and be like, oh, here's my idea. I'm gonna invent a time machine. And so
no, no.
you know what I mean?
What
Like
I'm
I need a proof of
saying,
concept, right?
what I'm saying is you need both, because a lot of ed tech startups right now are, they received a lot of funding in 2021. They're not doing very well, and investors are being very careful because a lot of money was poured into ed tech, and it's not performing very well. But the investors need to see the proof of concept, but also the perspective, right? So it's not going to ruin my reputation. It's going to bring me the returns. Have you thought
Okay,
of
so are you talking about in terms of how it's been in the last 15 years? I mean, because I know I have some
15 years since
clients.
2020? I would say, since everybody poured a lot of money into edtech in 2020 when everything went
No, no,
online.
no. But what I'm talking about is the big problem in Silicon Valley has been that 99.9% of these investments actually don't pan out. They
Exactly.
actually fail,
That's
right? Only a
yeah.
very very small number of them
Yes.
succeed, and most investors are okay with it, so that's why they've been doing it. But I think a lot of them are now waking up to the fact that it's not working out, and even though 0.1% that it has worked out, like Groupon, doesn't really work out, meaning they still
Yeah.
can't figure out how to profit, right?
But
So
what would a proof of concept mean to you? Like, you have, let's say, 1 million users, or when would you know that you have it? Like, what
so
criteria do you
let's
have?
say like 1,000 people sign up today, and
On one
then
day.
at the end, yeah, and then at the end of like 3 months period when they go through my program, or let's say it's an year-long membership or whatever it is, like 80% of them have actually gone through the exercise, meaning that they don't give up, right? And then they actually complete it. And here's the thing, I can probably make up some bullshit and get funding, and I can probably waste investors' time. I can do all the things that all the tech startups are doing. I can go get a huge, nice, fancy office and hire all these developers that I don't need, and I can just do all the fluff thing and just like do a quick exit and just get rich quick. Just like I can probably do that, but like the real question is that what I want to do, right? Like just because you can do that, should you do it? Like just if you can rip people off, should you do it? No,
That's
so
out of the question. That's not even the question. But would it mean that the people who have completed a 3 month program, that they extended their membership? Do you want that?
yeah, yeah. For me, no, even that wouldn't even be good for me
Hmm.
because I'm so good at manipulative marketing because that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years that
Hmm.
I can get them to renew. I can get I can find a way to make this super profitable even
Hmm.
though the product doesn't work. And that's pretty much almost every online course out there.
Yes.
Almost every online course out there is profitable, even though only a tiny fraction. Like, just think about this, right? Think about the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands people that went through Tony Robbins' program, and they paid $3,000, $5,000, $6,000 to go through Tony Robbins' program, right? If I were to, and the way they sell it is like, this is gonna give you a breakthrough, and this is gonna change your life. It's gonna turn your life around, right? What percentage of those hundreds of thousands of people do you think actually turned their life around and actually had made it happen, right? They have the feeling like they did, but all
Yes.
of that is just all through manipulation and marketing because they get you all hyped up in this room without, like, you're exhausted, no food, you're in this like emotional state, and this music is playing, and then boom, they sign you up for the next one right there. Like, yeah, you can do all of that to sell
Yes.
it, but that doesn't mean the product works, right?
Hmm.
So I think how profitable product is and how well it's selling has nothing to do with how good the product really is, to be honest, right? So
Unfortunately.
yeah, so that wouldn't even be an indicator for me that it's working. Like the only way I would know that it's working is number one. My first step is right now, like 70% of people who sign up for Night Owl Nation are not actually doing the exercise and doing the work, right? So if I can get 80% of the people to actually do the exercise, meaning they're in a group, they're doing the exercise and they're posting or whatever it is, then I would feel confident that, okay, this is working. And then the second thing is through that exercise, like I need to find some way to measure that how much have they improved their storytelling, right? And
Mm-hmm.
once that happens, then my morality would allow me to be like, okay, this is working now. Let me get some investors. Let me throw some money into it, and let me scale it. But I just don't think that we're there yet, and I
Yeah.
don't even think that we're close. And I can't expect it to be close, right? It's like like right, like imagine that, like Apple or all these tech startups before they actually got their product to work, they started selling it like a mass, right? But they didn't. They got, or maybe you're right. Maybe what I should do is get funding just to test it out, just to get it to a point. But I guess the problem is I don't need funding in order to test it out. I don't need funding in order to. I wouldn't feel safe asking people to invest in me,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing 100% sure if it's going to work or not. I guess
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is the thing.
How not knowing what exactly people should be doing to feel this success, right? Or
Yeah.
to succeed in the program.
Because I feel like what I'm trying to do is something. Maybe what I'm trying to do is hopeless. Maybe humans will never be there, right? I mean, I hope not, but
Me too. I hope not.
but I mean, but there is a reason why most people sign up for a gym and don't go, right? There's a reason why most people sign up for a course and don't go. There's a reason why most people say that every New Year I'm gonna grow Instagram and they stop posting. There's a reason why that keeps happening. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, can I break that pattern? Can I somehow figure out a system
You're already
where
doing
they
a lot
actually
of great
will?
things. I think you're already doing a lot of great things, and that's the reason I signed up for this community, because you're doing things slightly differently, and I support your ideas and your views, especially what you say about the online courses, because they simply do not work. And then people blame themselves that they don't work,
Yeah.
even though they're super
Yeah. You
profitable.
know why they blame themselves though? It's
Mhm.
because the marketing message is designed that way.
Yes.
Because what they do when you go to Tony Robbins and you're like, yeah, 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 and you told all your friends, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm gonna change my life. Now I'm gonna start going to the gym every day. I'm gonna start my business and blah blah blah, blah, right? And then what happens 3 months later? Because Tony Robbins is not there to hype you up every day, every morning.
Exactly.
3 months later, it goes down, right? And then
I always
all their friends starts coming to you and be like, "What happened, huh? How come it like what happened with? I thought this was going to change your life, huh?" So now that I automatically get defensive, I'm like, "Oh, but Tony Robbins is telling you if it didn't work, it's because you didn't put in the work."
yes.
So what do? They start going telling their friends, "Oh yeah, no, the program works. The reason why it didn't work is because I didn't do the work." So they start blaming that. That's how psychologically they manipulate to blame yourself rather than blaming the program.
The same happens to people who go to different retreats. For example, they go and meditate and they eat healthy for 15 days, and then they get back to the city life and they eat a hamburger again. And again, they tell themselves the story that I can't resist, right? It's
Hmm.
me. I'm guilty. I can't resist a hamburger. I can't resist McDonald's. But the program is good. But the fact is that they haven't learned to eat healthy, but the program convinced them that they would. They would learn
Yeah.
to eat healthy in just 15 days.
What the honest way to do that would for those retreats should say this retreat is gonna hype you up enough to do it temporarily, but you're gonna have to come back every month if you want to
Yeah.
sustain it. Like if you sold it like that, I have no problem. But the
But the
problem
reason
with this,
they can't
yeah,
sell it like this because nobody wants to come back every
nobody
month.
would buy it.
Yes, nobody wants to come back every month. You
That's why
know,
it's manipulation.
yeah, I always say that you need a coach so that you don't need a coach. Basically, that's the
Yeah,
reason. That's the purpose
yeah,
of learning. That's the purpose of teaching.
yeah.
I'm working with people so that they don't need me.
But
They need
that's
to become independent.
you see how that's counterintuitive to business, right? Because
Yes.
as a business, you want your customers to depend on you. Like,
I still
it,
think you can build a business out of this, because people can get a lot of different, people can get a lot
well,
of value
yeah.
still.
So now we're going to a different kind of
Mm.
topic of that, but like, because like, so capitalism, right? Like, for example, like here's a big controversy in America. Like, there's pharmaceutical companies make like the most money. Like, one of the companies that make the most money are pharmaceutical companies. But in order for pharmaceutical companies to keep profiting it and get the
People need to
investors
be sick.
happy, is that everybody has to be sick.
Yes.
so so the measure for pharmaceutical companies to grow means more people have to get sick. So pharmaceutical companies have zero like incentive to actually get people healthy because as soon as they become healthy, now they're out of business.
Exactly.
And that is the problem with that's one of the problems with capitalism. I'm a capitalist, so I believe in capitalism, but I think that's the con, right? That's the downside of capitalism is that if everything is about capital, if everything is about incentives, then you can also incentivize the wrong thing like that. That's why I think I believe in some government restrictions and some like, you know.
Do you want people to ultimately be able to post, to tell stories and to grow their Instagram without you?
I mean, if not, then I'm not doing a good job, right?
Yeah,
So
I
maybe,
think the
yeah,
same way. Yeah.
yeah.
They need to be able to
So,
do it without me.
but that's sustainable for me, right? So I don't think of us as like this business that's going to be like Pfizer, right? It can sustain few people, and we can probably do it for a while. But at some or like we're not doing this to be a $1 billion company. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if that was the goal, then I think it'll actually go the wrong way. It's this is more of my personal, yeah,
But I think you're doing I mean, you're doing a great job because, well, first of all, in your community, people learn from people. That's very important. Like, there are real meetings, there are real people. People learn from feedback. And that's already a huge step forward. And people know that they can count on other
yeah,
people, they can count on you. They're not alone. I think what capitalism, unfortunately, the idea it's trying to instill in us is that we don't need other people, which is not true. We need them, and we need to learn from
we
them.
just need
And we
AI.
depend on and we depend on other people all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
We don't even grow our own food, right? We depend on other people every day.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like everybody wants to be a solopreneur. I want to do
Yes.
this all by myself.
No,
Like,
you can't do everything. You can do only a certain amount of things by yourself. But, like, they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you're going to go far, go
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
need each other,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And the current economy is trying to convince us that we don't. It's trying to divide people. And what your community is doing, it's uniting people, which is beautiful. You have people from
yeah.
countries all over the
I
world.
also think that the best way to learn is actually to teach, and that's
Yeah,
kind of like
true.
one of the concept that like we want to develop at Night Owl Nation. Like we want everyone to be students, but also teachers
And it
at the
doesn't
same
even
time.
mean they have to teach in the academic context. But if you teach your own children, that's teaching too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
if you pass this knowledge to your nephews, nieces, if you to your children, that's already beautiful. But in
yeah,
order to pass this knowledge, you need to have it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But what I mean is like when like for example, let's say we have a designer that's been with us for like 3 years, and a new designer comes in, and this more experienced designer is like teaching this new designer how to do something. But in the midst of teaching that person, actually that concept became even more clear to the person who's teaching it.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yes.
know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I really want that to happen at Night Owl Nation, and I think with some people it's happening. So I can see like a little spark. Like, so I guess to kind of answer your question, we have a little spark of it going on, but I just think that the only way I can really figure it out is by keep doing it. And if you want to create the similar things, you probably have to do the same thing. You probably have to teach something at scale,
Hmm.
knowing that it's not going to work for most people.
Hmm.
But what
Yeah.
it is going to do is you're going to learn a little bit better way to teach that next time, and then do it again. So maybe you just have to give yourself time and be like, I'm going to teach it at scale, even if it doesn't work, because it's going to help me figure out a better way to teach it at scale. And you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I actually have my own community. I run a community. I
Yeah.
also, when I started it, I told myself I'm not going to make any money in the first year. Just, I
Yeah.
was so, I agreed to this idea from day one that I'm going to try it out. I'm not going to make any money in the first year, and that was true. So but my community is just exercises, so that people can come and find every exercise for any skill that they need to practice when it comes to communication. It's just
Any
exercise.
skill. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to in communication in English, right? So they need to develop certain skills. They need pronunciation. Okay, here's an exercise. They
I
need
see. I
clarity.
see what you mean. Yeah.
Here's an exercise, and they get feedback on all their work. But I agree with you. Just keep showing up.
I guess what you're trying to do is, how can I get people more people to do the exercise? Is
Yes, more
what you.
people, because those people who've spent some time with me, who've been following my work for years, they get it. Or those people who
Mhm.
are at a point in life where they see the value in learning how to learn. They already lived through this experience. They have it. Now
Yeah.
they understand
Yeah.
it from their own experience. And they get it. I don't have to explain it to them a lot. But a lot of people, the majority of people, they feel like it's some wooey stuff. Like, what are we
Yeah.
even talking? Like, give me some grammar exercising,
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't understand why it's important to practice being attentive, or what it even means, or how it is even possible to pay attention to these things. And
So
for
yeah,
example,
so yeah. Go ahead.
the exercise that I teach is to read out loud. It's a fantastic exercise to read out loud in a foreign language. But a lot of people go like, what are you talking about? I'm not
Yeah.
5. I can read. What are we doing here?
Yeah. So I guess, okay. So what we need to do, both of us, is, yes, we need to take this obvious, boring exercise
Yeah.
that people are looking at it like, what is this? How's this
Yes.
going to help me, right?
Uh-huh.
And somehow
Make it
design that
attractive.
exercise, yeah, in a way that, yeah, it is, you're doing the boring thing, but there's one little part of it where they see the benefit of it, or something like that. Which,
Mhm.
so the way I'm trying to do it, I don't know. I haven't quite figured that out yet.
The
But
problem is that they can see the benefit once they've done it. To get them to do it.
well, once they've done it a certain number of times, because
Yes,
I bet you the first time they won't get it right away, right?
yeah, that's
Like,
true too.
yeah, some
Yes,
people might, but most.
and that, yeah,
So you have to get them to understand, like how it's benefiting them. I guess that's the hard part. And
I
here's the thing. I think most. So I think we're exactly on the same page. I think most online course creators, most teachers, what they're thinking is that, like, that's just the way it is. Just majority of people are just not going to do it because they're not self-motivated, and that's just the way it is, right? And it's their fault that they paid for this course and they didn't do it themselves. It's their own fault. It's not my fault. It's their fault, right? Even though I convinced them, I manipulated them to in order to buy my course, saying that, promising them this, and then I just say it's your fault because you didn't do it, right? That's my problem. That's where I have the problem. So what I'm actually trying to do is, instead of saying it's your fault for not doing it, what is this? What is something I can do to actually get more people to actually do it, right?
yeah,
And then actually promise them that, right? Because you're not like, because knowledge is free, right? You can say
exactly.
that
That's
about
what
pretty
I
much
say all the
everyone in the
time.
world.
People pay for content when they buy an online course, but content is free. How you work with content, the strategies to work with content, that is worth learning, because we have a problem, a global problem, which is the implementation problem. Everybody watches self-help YouTube videos. Everybody knows how to learn. Everybody knows what to do in the morning, how to eat, but nobody implements. We have the implementation problem.
Exactly. And we can't
How
just
to
blame people for that. We can't just be like, it's their fault they didn't come to the gym. It's their fault that they didn't like. Well, I guess it's fine if you're selling a gym membership for $20 a month, where people know that that's what's happening, right? They're voluntarily saying, I'm going to pay $20 a month, and if I don't come to the gym, that's my fault. That's fine. But what's really happening is this: instead of charging $20 a month, or somebody can sell a book for $20, and it's their fault if they don't read and implement it. Yeah, I'm agreeing to that. I'm agreeing to paying $20 and saying it's my fault if I don't do it. But what's really happening is they're saying, okay, here's $20,000 and I'm gonna get you fit.
Yeah,
And then when they don't come to the gym, they're saying they're blaming you. We're like, that's very, that's not honest. That's
I agree with
manipulative. You know what I
you. Yeah,
mean?
I agree with you.
I don't know how people don't see that.
Critical thinking. Critical thinking. You need to have it to see it. Yeah, because
Yeah,
people want these things very much, and I keep learning that what people want and what people need are different things.
yeah, exactly.
And people are being sold what they want. They want McDonald's. They want to get fit, but what they need is different.
Yeah. You know what I realized? Like, I was actually at my best when I was in school. Like when I was in high school, college, I was actually, because at that moment I was being forced to go to class. I was being
Mhm.
forced to do these things. I was
So there was
forced to
some
go to the
discipline,
gym.
right?
Yeah. But as soon as, like, now that I have complete freedom to do whatever I want, right? Like when I was in high school, we had a gym class, right? And then, I was in a volleyball team, so I played volleyball. So it forced me to be active, and it forced me to, like, and I was fit, right? But now I can eat whatever I want, and my parents forced me to eat healthy, right? But now I can eat whatever I want, not go to the gym if I don't want, and not study anything if I want. I'm actually becoming a worse person. It's almost like, yeah. So I mean, most of us, they don't know what's good for ourselves. We don't know what we need. We just know what we want. Yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah. But
yeah,
you're talking about discipline, which is another
yeah,
important skill, self-discipline.
yeah,
Knowing what you need and giving yourself what you need through discipline. Because a lot of people see discipline as I'm punishing myself with discipline, but discipline is not punishment. It's not. You are
yeah. It's not.
creating
Yeah,
yourself. You're
yeah,
creating
yeah,
what
yeah.
you yourself, but not
I guess
punishing.
that's what we're really teaching. If you really think about it, what we're trying to do is get people to do this work and do the work of doing this exercise and blah blah blah, because they know that it's going to benefit them, and
Yeah.
ultimately that's what we're like. That's what we're really trying to sell. That's what we're really trying to figure
And
out.
I see it in my group too. I think you worry also a little bit too much about people attending every meeting and people writing down every story, because some people are going to do the exercises every week. And some people are going to do one, two, three exercises. Maybe they're going to miss 50% of the classes, but they're going to have some aha moment that's going to change something for them. And you're never going to know about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They may get
That's
this
actually
aha
that what
moment.
we're changing. That in the next quarter, we're talking about that right now. Where how can
Mhm.
we design this in a way that it doesn't have to be all or nothing? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, how, some people might go to the gym once a month. That's still better than not going at all.
Some people can go to the gym for a month and understand that they need an individual Pilates classes and not the gym. They don't need to lift heavy because it hurts them. And they're going to leave the gym, but you're going to think that your gym is bad. But in reality, they had an aha
Mm,
moment and they learned what they really need, and they went and get that and got that. So the same can happen. And I see it all the time when I learn a new skill. You don't have to necessarily complete the program 100% to learn something out of it, because these
that's
aha
true.
moments are so powerful.
Yeah,
You can understand that you need to change something now, and the fact that a person is walking away doesn't mean he hasn't learned anything or she hasn't learned anything. It means they learned something and now they're doing something that needs to be done.
yeah. Oh, no, I think that's how the courses and the these masterminds and these mentorships are helpful. Is that if I pay $10,000 for a mastermind, it's not the whole thing that helped me, but
Yes.
I made this one connection or this one aha moment that actually completely shift everything.
Yes.
So, but I don't think that's what I'm trying to do at Night Owl Nation, though. I'm not trying to give people a perspective change. What I'm trying to do is get them to realize why they need to practice, and then get them
Yes.
to actually practice.
I'm trying to get people to realize the same thing, that they need practice, or I call it a practice routine. They need to change
Yeah,
something they do daily. They need
yeah.
to integrate it into their daily practice. That's
That's
true.
why I
But
actually call it like. That's why the reason why I keep bringing up CrossFit and like Peloton and those kind of things, because those are all community based, right? I think the reason why
That's
CrossFit
true.
works is because it's community based. The reason why they go there is not because they love the hard workout and throwing up after work. That's not why they go there. I think they go there because of the community, because they know that the people of their community is there, and the workout is almost like secondary to that. Do you know what I mean?
Have you done CrossFit yourself?
No, but like I mean, yoga is same way too. Like Baptist yoga, like most people go there not just because of the yoga, but
Mm-hmm.
because of the community, and then the
Mm-hmm.
yoga is almost secondary. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
I think people who do CrossFit, they're still motivated to get fit. They still want to get fit. They still, and they look fit
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of them.
yeah. But the reason why they CrossFit, you choose CrossFit over just going to the gym alone by themselves and doing it by themselves, I think
Yeah.
is because CrossFit has that community aspect of it, where you see like a grandma doing squats, and you see like a 80-year-old child doing squats, and they're all accepted, and they're all like, hey, they're cheering each other on. It's
Yeah.
one thing for you to just sit in the gym by yourself trying to do squats, but it's
Mm-hmm.
another thing if you have these people around you that are cheering, like, come on, you can do it, like just one more, right? Like that kind of community aspect of it.
And you feel
So
safer too, because a lot of exercises in CrossFit are kind of dangerous. So you need someone to spot on
yeah,
you.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
you feel safer too. I think that might be part of it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm not saying CrossFit is necessary. Probably I don't know enough about fitness to know like if it's, because I hear people saying that CrossFit is bad too. But I guess that's kind of like if I tell you to just post content every day and come up with this story and exercise and every day by yourself, most likely you're not going to do it. But if you're in a group and every time you post it, they're cheering you on, be like, oh my God, I love this. And people are like around you and kind of like helping you and supporting you, it's most likely going to drive you to do it. And you can say, yes, that's an extrinsic motivation. But like I
But
said, I think you need it.
if I post every day on social media and my group is cheering me up, but I still get zero sales, zero new followers, I think most people are still going to be upset.
I don't think so.
Because
If
I think in addition to cheering people up, and you need feedback. So if I post every day, but I post the same stuff every day, and I'm not changing anything, and I'm not learning anything,
oh,
I'm
I
going to
see.
be
Yeah, 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 yeah.
disappointed.
No, yeah, yeah. I
Every
mean, but
post needs to be an iteration, needs to be
yes,
better.
the learning needs to happen first. But I think
Yeah.
that's a given, right? If you're not actually teaching anything, you're not. If your exercise is not doing anything in terms of helping them or something like that, then obviously it's useless.
But think about it. So many people, like they go to the gym, they hire a coach writes a fitness plan for them, and they go and
Hmm.
do the same fitness routine every day for weeks, for months. And they never change.
That's
Like
true. Yeah.
nothing changes about the
Let me
performance,
let me
about
ask you
the
this though.
yeah.
Let's say somebody eats healthier and goes to the gym and do it the wrong way, right?
The gym?
And do they do that? Yeah. Let's say they go to the gym and they're doing squats, but they're doing it the wrong way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they're eating healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I mean, there's like really like, but they're actually like actively counting their calories or whatever, counting their whatever it is, because of, but they're doing it the wrong way, right? And they did it for a year the wrong way. Don't you think that's still better than not doing it at all?
If they did it the wrong way and they didn't, well, they probably are not going to get the result that they wanted. And if they don't get the result in a year, they're going to quit. That's the
Okay.
danger.
Do you really think that if they're counting the calorie, like let's say I'm telling them to eat like this and count your calories
Mhm.
and count your macros, blah blah blah, go to the gym and just do squats every day, right? And they're doing it every day, and people are like, hey, blah blah blah, and let's say there's no feedback coming in, right? And the second person, they didn't count their calories at all and never went to the gym. You really think that a year later they're going to be at the same place?
I think the person who ate healthier and went to the gym, they're going to also be able to give feedback to themselves. They're going to notice that, oh, I'm feeling better.
Yes,
I'm sleeping.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
Exactly. So
and
I
this
think that
feedback will matter more. Yeah.
I
Even if
think
they're doing
the
it wrong. Yeah.
that's why I think posting every day for a certain amount of time is so helpful, even if they're doing it wrong, because the human brain is so phenomenal. The human brain is so amazing that if you keep doing something wrong over and over and repeatedly over and over, it'll fix itself. It'll recognize that what you're doing wrong, and you'll start to recognize. Then you'll start to make tweaks on your own, even without a feedback.
No, I don't agree with you here. So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. I dance tango.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a tango school to learn to dance tango, to learn to dance. And then all you do is you go to milongas. These are dance parties where you dance with different partners, where everybody just dances. Nobody corrects you. Nobody gives you feedback. You dance the way you dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a tango school maybe for half a year. And then I decided, okay, I'm good. I'm just going to go to milongas and dance.
Mm-hmm.
And my tango teacher once saw me at a party, and he was like, well, do you realize that all you're doing is you're becoming excellent at your mistakes? I was like, because he saw me dance, he saw me make all those mistakes, because I obviously, wasn't good enough, but I was not good enough. I was able to perform certain moves, and I kept practicing those moves incorrectly.
You're doing it wrong.
You just told me, you continue dancing like this, it's going to be so difficult
That's true.
for you
You
later
got a
to
point there.
unlearn
Yeah.
it. So doing the wrong thing over and over again is only going to lead
in that
to
context, I 100% agree. You're right. Like,
you
because some people do the workout wrong, and they did it so wrong that it's almost harder to fix it rather than like somebody who's starting from scratch. Like, it's harder to teach the person who's been doing it wrong.
Well, when a person learns a language and they keep practicing or they keep mispronouncing a word for so long that they don't even hear that, and then it's so hard to unlearn that habit.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
So feedback is necessary.
But you don't think that? Okay. So let me give you another example.
I think what you're trying to say, it will work if a person has self-reflection skills. If a person is used.
No, like I'm just talking about it for everyone. Let me give you an example. Let's say one person is reading, like they're both non-native speakers, non-native English speaker, but one person is reading out loud something every day, or maybe not just reading, but I mean I don't know if it works with reading, but I know it 100% works with writing. If anybody wants to be a writer, you just write bad every day. A year later, you'll be a better writer. Do you understand what I mean? And I don't know how that happens, but it happens.
Yes, that's true. Yes. If you write badly, you're going to figure out a way to write better. Absolutely. Especially if you read too, if you read other people's work. But with reading out loud in a foreign language, I can tell you, people read incorrectly for long enough and they quit because they don't see a point, they don't see the progress, and they internalize their bad mistakes. And it gets even more difficult for them. So most of my students now say, oh, I finally got it. Practice makes perfect is bullshit. It doesn't work. Only perfect practice makes perfect. So they say, I want to practice.
But you realize how that's not true when it comes to writing. Because if you even if you do it,
but
and it's the same in design. If you design badly, but if you say I suck in design, right? And I tell them to design 100 websites, by the 100th time they're gonna get better, even if no matter how, like, even if they don't get feedback or anything like that.
I think we're talking about the same thing, but just using different language. You say yourself that, and I agree with you, that 80% of writing is editing. So when you say writing, you actually imply editing, right? So if a person just
you're talking about self-feedback. I'm giving kind of in some tasks I can give myself feedback, but in other
but I mean, if a person
just
writes every day but never edits their writing, are they going to get better? If they never edit their writing, if they just write a page and just leave it, and then write a page and never work on it, never look at it, never edit it, I don't think they're going to get really good at
That's
writing.
a really good point. Because I do think that, I mean, I think that, I don't know to answer your question, but I think there will be a huge difference between the person that edited their writing versus who didn't edit their writing.
If they write and they never look at it and they never use it, they're never going to learn anything. They need to edit to learn to write better. At least read their work out loud. At least hear it.
Yeah, no, and it's the same thing with content creation because you actually there are people that I know that did the 100-day challenge, but 100 days later their content is still garbage, and
Yes.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, can't you see that like this isn't working? Like, why wouldn't you? I think okay, here, I'll correct my statement. So I think what they need to do is they need to, even if they're doing it wrong, they need to do it every day, and they need to look at their previous content and improve one tiny little
Yes.
thing.
They need to
Without
iterate.
that, yeah. Otherwise, yeah,
Yes. But can you see the problem with online courses now? So what people
yeah.
do is they think I'm just going to do one lesson every day because this
Hmm.
course is supposed to take me 3 months. They
Hmm.
never go back to the previous lessons. They never
Hmm.
analyze them. They just do
Hmm.
one lesson a day and they
Oh
assume
my
that
gosh, you just gave me an idea. That's the thing that I need to add in Night Owl Nation. Is I need to add, part of the exercise has to be, now go back to like the exercise from a
absolutely.
month ago, or
Yes,
go back
they
to,
need to go
if
back.
we're doing posting, go back to your post from last week
Yes.
and analyze what's one thing you can improve from that.
I always do this
And
with my students.
yeah,
Yes. They need to go back. They need to see what changed because then they see it themselves and
yeah,
they appreciate the work they did so much. But with
yeah,
most online courses, people assume that they're going to watch 24 video lessons and they're going to learn something. Never. It's never going to happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They never even analyze what they're
yeah.
doing. But they think that, oh, I'm doing it every day for 3 months, I'm practicing. No, they're doing the same thing
Hmm.
every day for 3 months and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that people don't
I
see.
think that's the one part that's missing in Night Owl Nation right now, is the analysis of your your old work. See, like, okay, this was like, I knew it. I knew this is gonna help me somehow.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, people. Yeah, those people who did the work, those people who wrote the stories, they're gonna see a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I do. Because you know how I say I repost content from 6 months ago.
Hmm.
So whenever I go back to my carousel from 6 months ago and I try to repost it, I'll quickly look at it. I'm like, oh no, I can't repost this because this is garbage. Like, I
Exactly.
always notice something that I did wrong and I rewrite it. And then
Oh
six
my God,
months
when I
later, I
watch,
look,
yeah,
yeah,
I agree with you. When I watch my older YouTube videos, I go like, who is this person? My
yeah,
pronunciation has changed. The way I speak has
yeah.
changed.
Even though at that moment I thought I was amazing, 6 months later when I look back, I'm like, oh my god, this sucks.
Yes, 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 that's true. But and then you appreciate the effort you put in, and you want
Mm.
to continue, and that brings you
Yeah,
joy too.
actually, yeah, that really gives me the more sense of accomplishment than anything
Yes,
else. I think that,
yes.
and also that's what happened to me when I started going to the gym.
Mhm.
It wasn't until 3 months in I started to see the change in my body is what kept me going. Like, but the first 3 months was basically just, oh, I hate
And
this shit.
what happened after 3 months?
Because 3 months later, I can actually see the change in my body, right?
Yeah, but did you continue after 3 months?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that actually got me excited to go to the
Uh-huh.
gym.
Mhm. Okay,
But
got it.
before that, I was like, this is this is useless. Oh, this is like, I hated it, right? But then there was a moment when I noticed the difference, and I think that's why people say, because people say you should measure that every, like when you go to workout, you should keep track of like how much you're lifting, and then you
Mhm.
increase that by a certain amount, and you can measure that, and you like weigh yourself, you measure your, whatever,
Mhm.
and that probably really helps you because then you can kind of like literally see the progress you're making
People want
versus,
immediate gratification. They wear certain gadgets, they step on a scale. They want to see immediate results. And that's why all these gadgets might pulse. But in fact, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you do it for 3 months at least. This is what matters. You know?
but how
And
do you get them? I guess the question is, how do you get them to do it for 3 months?
yes, yeah, yeah, exactly.
And maybe
You
the
know how
gadgets help in that way.
this is how I talk to myself.
Mhm.
I took like it's an exercise. You can try this as well. Think of 5 skills you've learned in your life. Maybe how to drive a car, how to create content, how to sell. 5 things, and think how long did it take you to learn each skill? 5 months, 12 months. So, and then what's the average of five? When I did this exercise, I took 5 skills. I looked at how long it took me to learn each skill. To learn, I mean from I'm a complete beginner to I can do it with my eyes closed. That's How long? And my average number was 9 months. So I need at least 9 months to learn a skill. And I know that the first 3, 4 months is going to be difficult because the first 200 iterations are usually super bad. So if I'm learning a new skill and I suck at it, and it's been 2.5 months, I tell myself, okay, has it been 3 months yet? No, it's too early to get upset.
Yeah.
because I know that's physiology, that's the law of physics, that's just life. That's how it's going to work all the time. But if it's been more than 3 months and I'm still not enjoying it, then maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. But the first 3 months, I know that it's supposed to be hard.
Some things take more than 3 months, I think. Like, for
Yes,
example,
I agree with
playing the
you.
piano.
Well, yes, of course. Well, if you're a kid, I think it takes less. But if you're an adult, yes, it takes longer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, there are certain things that are, they're like, I think there's a barrier of entry for most skills. Like, for example, if you want to learn how to ski, I think in the first day you can have that point where you say, this is fun, I'm going to
Yeah.
keep doing it, right? But if you give up in the half a day, obviously you're never going to do it, right?
And depending on how fit you are, you're going to enjoy it differently too. So you can
That's
wake up
true.
all sore, and then it's not fun
Yeah.
anymore.
But you know what I mean by, there are certain things that, this is what I think. For every skill that you want to learn, like, for example, playing a guitar, driving a car, whatever it is, I think there's a barrier of entry. And once you hit that, there's a certain part where you hit that mark and you're like, oh, I get it now. And then from that point on, like, it becomes fun and you can keep improving on, but then,
Yeah.
but then that barrier of entry is different for different activities. Like I said,
If I try to learn maths today, I think
mhm,
I'm never going to learn it because I'm just so bad at it. So I'm not even going to try.
yeah,
But you should learn a skill that you actually want to apply in your everyday life. Then it's
yeah,
doable. I don't think people
yeah,
should try to learn everything because that's also becoming fashionable, and kind of all successful people need to read 100 books a year and learn many skills. It's just not sustainable. You need to
yeah,
focus
yeah, yeah.
too.
And that's kind of how it is for you. Like, for example, like your students, their goal is to be fluent in English, let's say, for example, and they want to
Their
be able
goal
to.
is different. Their goal is to build a career in a global company. Their goal is to make more money. Their
Also, they
goal
don't even
is
care if they're fluent in English or not.
no. They know that being fluent in English is what's going to get them there. They must be because they live in an English-speaking country now, and they must conform, or they must,
No, no, yeah. So then, therefore, I think they know that. Okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't think people can learn anything unless there's a reason behind why they know why
Yes,
they're learning it, right?
exactly.
So that's why, like, kids hate math because they don't understand, like, how is this going to help me in life, right? Whereas in, like, if you go to a filmmaking school and they're teaching you how to use an editing software, even if it's hard, you can clearly see the connection between how this is going to help me become a better filmmaker.
But
Like,
with children too, the teacher's personality plays a huge role, and a teacher is supposed to get children interested in the subject.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our real job, is
Yeah.
actually to show them, like, get them to get interested in it. But I think in order to get them to be interested, they have to know the reason why. Like, right now, the only reason why is because, oh, so I can get an A. But that's why,
Yeah.
like, people who grew up in homes where their parents don't care about grades, they don't really care about their grades, they're not going to do well in school because that's literally their only reason why they're learning something, is the grade.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
And if a person doesn't see how or in what way they can apply it in their life, they're also not going to be motivated long enough.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what we need to figure out. How can we show the people coming in who doesn't see the point of these exercises? How can we connect the dot between that and what they're actually trying to achieve, so they can
I think
understand it?
what we should never stop doing is leading by example. Absolutely. And analyzing your own journey and showing people, because people are not motivated or most people are not motivated because they can't see there. For example, people who want to become fluent in English and their English skills
Yeah,
are average, they don't even know what it's like. They've never been there. They don't and they can't touch it. It's just an abstract idea to them. Just like people who have never had 100,000 followers on Instagram, they don't know what it's like. So for them, it's like an abstract idea. But when they see someone who has it and someone who didn't have it, it's like you were not born with this, and you with this,
Yeah,
and you
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
show them
But
how
that's why I think this is important. I think they need to see their peers do it. So,
yes,
for
they need to
example,
see
if you're
that.
in Night Owl Nation, they need to see somebody who's been in Night Owl Nation for
Yeah.
6 months, who grew their Instagram and who's good at storytelling. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I share like story, like I'll share your story or something like that, story of the day, is because once they see their peers doing it,
Mhm.
then they're like, oh, I can do it too.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm
if they
doing
look
too.
at me,
I
they're
want
gonna
people
be
to
like,
see that it's
oh,
possible. It's possible because other
yeah,
people do it.
yeah.
Yes.
But if it's just me, I don't think that's gonna work because people are gonna be like, yeah,
Exactly.
son can do it, but I could never do that. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
That's important. Yeah. People need to know that it's possible. And the human motivation is not like I want this, but I want this too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want this too.
I guess it's kind of like yeah, it's the social aspect of it, like
Mhm.
because other people are doing it, I want that too. Like if
And it
nobody in
also
the
means
world is doing it,
if other people are doing
yeah.
it, it also means it's possible. Maybe it's possible for me too. Actually, that's the only reason I believed in myself and I had enough faith to learn English that well, because I saw another guy who was local, but who spoke English like he was American. He showed
Oh,
me that
okay,
it was possible, and he inspired me. When I was 18 years old, I met a person who showed me that it's possible.
that's so true. Like what you have to be able to see for yourself that it's possible for me too, and
Yes.
once that happens, and I think that's why that exercise that I give my developers, like week one, like they need to be able to see that, oh, I figured this out on my own.
Yeah.
Of course, like I'll guide them too, but they have to see that they figure it out for themselves. Then they're gonna be like, oh, it's possible, and then they get to that.
Yeah. That's true. They need to see that it's possible. So I guess we can't. We don't. We need to both figure it out. Figure it out.
Yeah,
We don't have the answer to the question yet.
yeah. But this was really helpful. Like I think I think I mean, for me, it was definitely helpful. I don't know about you,
Well,
but
I'm happy. It was an insightful conversation. Yes, thank
yeah,
you.
just I guess what the takeaway is that we both need to figure it out, and the way to do it is through iterations. Is
Absolutely. Yes, and to show people that it's possible
yeah.
and lead by example.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? I know we just got kind of sidetracked in our conversation, but
No, no, really. I wish you a lot of success, and I hope it grows, and I hope you feel a sense of accomplishment with this, and you feel
oh,
fulfilled with this, because you're doing something great, and I wish more people did that.
yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, I already feel fulfilled doing it. I
Mhm.
like the act of doing it, so that's why I'm not really worried about hitting that goal because I just
Yeah,
like doing it every day. So, and I wish the same for you. I hope that
thank
you're gonna
you.
figure out how to get people to, like practice English and all of that, and like basically the same thing that I'm trying to figure out, and the fact that we're doing it together, like I'm sure we'll feed off of each other and we'll share ideas
Yeah,
and
my,
improve
my
together that way.
message. I'm trying to tell people, don't stop wanting to learn English one day. Start practicing it every day, because that's the only way. You have to practice it
Yeah,
every.
yeah. No, and I think that's the same thing for me. It's just really literally the same message for me. Like
Mhm.
don't think of it as like, oh, it's a skill that I need to get. It's not like I'm practicing storytelling every day. Like
Yeah,
I
if you
said,
stopped
I
practicing 5 years ago, what would you have to teach today? Nothing.
yeah, exactly. Like I said, I go back to my post from 6 months ago, and I'm like, wow, that's terrible. That means even I'm learning every
Yes, I'm
day,
learning
right?
all the time too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So great talking to you. Such a insightful, such a deep conversation. I think so many people will find it
Likewise.
helpful.
I enjoyed it.
Great talking to you, and hope I see you this Sunday. And
Yes, yes. I hope to see you too. I
cheers.
watch every replay of the Sunday
Awesome.
session.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next week, and cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.